My guest today is Kelsey Marie, and she's going to be talking with us about psychic abilities, how she developed them, how she experiences them, what that is all like. So, thank you so much for being here and welcome. I think what we'll do is we'll start just by talking about maybe you could name a few of the most powerful moments where you had psychic abilities come through, how that
Mhm.
impacted the people that you spoke with, some of those most jaw-dropping moments.
Okay, awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for having me. This is such a fun conversation. I'm so happy to be talking about this with you. So, yeah, there's kind of like a silly one that's coming to mind first. So when I'm preparing for a session with someone, I get into a very specific channeled state and I open myself up to receiving psychic messages for them. And a lot of what I do is spiritual channeling. So I'm actually channeling people's spirit guides and different spiritual beings that are supporting this person on their journey. Sometimes ancestors and loved ones come through as well. But sometimes there's like some funny images that I don't fully understand even that come through. And so this was newer on my journey to fully owning my mediumship and spiritual channeling. And this came through. It was a little edgy for me to share because it was a funny one. So there was a male spirit on a carousel horse. So I literally just saw this horse with the post as though it was connected to like a carousel ride. And he was just like hopping up and down on the horse with like a really silly personality. I was like, okay, like you're coming through as some sort of spiritual guide for this person, but if I if I share this and I'm wrong, I don't know what this person's gonna think of me. But I shared it and yeah, the person was just like their jaw hit the floor, this guy that I was having a session with. And he was like, I just dreamt of that last night. Like he had a dream of a
Wow.
man on a carousel horse. So random. And like in that moment, when we were talking about it, he realized and knew that it was the energy of his best friend who passed away, kind of being silly in a way that he came through for him. So that was really funny. Um, a lot of times, like, things that were really important to a person will come through, or things that have just happened to them will come through kind of as like a confirmation for them. So, just in the last couple of weeks, there was a couple examples of, two different clients actually had a bear spirit guide come through. And sometimes when a very similar spirit comes through, like, because we're human, right? So I'm always like wanting to make sure I have exactly a clear channel. I double check, triple check everything that I'm getting. And I'm like, is it possible that because a bear just came through for this other person, it's just in my mind already? And Spirit was like, no, there's also a bear for this person. It is not just you in your mind. So, but each of them gave me like reciprocal confirmation. One of them, after I brought through specifically a brown bear spirit for them, went and grabbed this brown bear stuffed animal from their childhood and like brought it to show me that they've been like connecting with it in terms of inner child healing lately. So, yeah, for the other client who had a bear spirit come through, they had just purchased a little bear figurine at the crystal shop to support them on their journey. I had told the women inside of my current mastermind that they could have a crystal ally or bring something to support them on their journey and bring it to every call. And the one that had spoken to her was a bear. So that was really cool. And then an owl's another one. I had like these huge owl wings, these white wings kind of flying overhead and protecting a client I was about to get on a call with. And when I had mentioned that to her, she said that she had a dream of that happening to her as well. And then she pulled down these like owl eyes that she had on her wall. Um, so yeah, things
Wow.
like that happen a lot. And other times it's something like a little more intense or serious that can happen. God can flow through me to support people who are really in need. And I'll just have this feeling like I'm
Mm.
supposed to do this right now. I'm supposed to help this person. For example, I was told very specifically to have a second session with someone that I saw once. It was very clear, like part of my mission, part of God flowing through me to see this person again. As a complimentary gift to them to support them with something serious that I wasn't aware of. And then when I had ended up following through and doing that, I had found out that they were a victim of domestic violence and like were in need of some really serious support. So that's also those moments are
Yeah.
really profound too, of course. Just in terms of being able to make that type of difference or impact, just from receiving a message. And even lastly, I'll mention that even the relationship that I'm in right now, I had connected with his spirit a year and a half or so prior to meeting him in person, and that spirit became like a spirit guide to me. Um, and not to go too far down like the galactic extraterrestrial train right now, but that is also something that I channel and communicate with and I'm tapped into. And so his spirit was showing up as Lyran, which is like a feline energy, lion-like, and there was a bluish color to this spirit. And he ended up being a Leo, which is represented by a lion. He had gotten a lion tattoo with blue eyes that were the same color as the spirit that I saw. He even has the same birthday as my grandfather who passed away and was and has been a very strong spiritual protector for me throughout my whole life. And there's just been like a lot of synchronicities, including the number that has followed me throughout my whole life and that I grew up in, number 46. He had played that number in professional hockey. So just like some pretty wild stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of around me all the time. It's a big part of my day-to-day life. So
Well, so all of those stories are incredible, and I can see how any of those would be for the clients that you've worked with and received them, how that would be so
mm,
reassuring to them and
hmm
so comforting to them. Um, I guess the first question that is coming to mind as I'm listening to you is how do you experience these intuitive hits or these like psychic
hmm
moments? Do you hear voices? Do you see very clear images? Do you have to have your eyes closed to see things? Is it more of just like a gut feeling?
So I receive messages in a variety of different ways, and we actually all have different psychic senses, and there's a lot of different psychic senses, and we all have access to all of them, but a lot of us are naturally more gifted in a certain way and more prone to receiving messages through a certain pathway. So for me, I'm very telepathic. I'm communicating with these beings as though we're having a full conversation in full, complete sentences, like I'm talking with them in the room, except it's happening from spirit into my brain. So it's a lot of telepathy. Or also clairaudience, just like hearing them talk. Not the same as hearing them as though they're in the room with me, though. It's more just like I'm having a conversation, but not through my actual ears hearing them. Um, I also do see images, and that's clairvoyance. So I have some of that too, where you can see things clearly. So I'll receive, like I mentioned, with some of these animals that I saw for clients or the man on the carousel horse, I saw that in my mind's eye, not in the room with me. But I could just kind of see it in my awareness and fields. I
Mm.
definitely also get very strong intuitive feelings in my body too. If something feels right or not right, or if something feels like a very strong yes for a client, it's like, oh, I just got a very strong yes to that when they're maybe talking to me about something they're considering doing. I might be like, and I'll feel that in my body, or I'll feel like a very strong, definite yes. Sometimes there's also just an instant knowing of something, which is another type of psychic sense, where you're not hearing it in a full sentence format. You just all of a sudden know, and it's just there. The answer is just there without it being presented that way. So sometimes I receive messages that way too. And a lot of it for me is a combination of intuition, so just an inner knowing in my body, just it feels right or it doesn't feel right, and also spiritual channeling. So I am a medium and a spiritual channel, meaning that I do a very specific ritual actually to protect my field and align my channel. And then I invite spirit to communicate with me that way. Um, I just had something come through for me too as I was talking about that. My about intuitive sensing. An example of that would be I've known when I've been cheated on and things like that before. Like it's not always the most enjoyable thing. Like in the exact moment that it has happened to me, I have known without a doubt that it is happening right now. Two different times with two different people from my past. And I was correct. Even when they tried to lie to me, like one person didn't tell me until 9 months later that that day that I had freaked out and they had said I was crazy. for us thinking that something was happening, I was
Mhm.
right the whole time. So it can be like that too. Just like it's not always positive. It can be for anything. It's just an enhanced sensing of what's happening beyond what you can see with your eyes, essentially.
So, I guess leading in
Mhm.
that would lead into my next question because I'm curious. I don't feel like I have that strong of an intuition or have not found it within myself yet. Maybe I should say it that way. I think I just live up in my head so much and I'm always questioning everything.
Totally.
Um, but have you ever had moments where you almost feel like you're pushing your intuitive abilities away because they either cause you fear or it feels like it's too much
Mm.
or like the information you're getting is
Mhm.
overwhelming?
So for me, like, there's a few different answers to that depending on the psychic sense that we're talking about. So, for example, I used to see dark, shadowy figures, and I did not like that at
Mhm.
all. Yeah, I did not like that part of it. So
Right.
that started to come
Yeah.
online. I remember I was always afraid of the dark and like seeing things even when I was a kid. But then as a teenager,
Yeah.
I really started seeing these dark energies and figures, and it got to the point where if it was nighttime, like I did not want to drive anywhere at all. I would see them on the side of the road, and I, had to try to block it out. Didn't fully understand what was happening. I knew that I was sensing something spiritually, but I just knew that I did not like it, and so I basically like trained my brain to block it out as best as I could. And then there were times when I started to reconnect to this gift and I decided to create a very firm boundary with spirit. And I told spirit, like, I do not like to see you, like in my room see you. I do not like that. So I'm asking you to please respect that. Like that is something I do not enjoy. Even if it wasn't dark, I don't like to see things in the room with me. Like let's talk telepathically. I just get
Mhm.
freaked out. Where other people don't as much. They're like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, there was so and so in my room last night." I'm like, "Don't show me yourself. Show me my mind's eye." So, I'll see things moving and like colors and lights and stuff, but like in terms of like fully seeing a form, like I have created a boundary that I do believe has been respected since I created that for myself. So I kind of
Mhm.
am turning off one of my gifts, but to me, I don't need that particular one to help me. So I've just chosen to create that boundary. Um, when it comes to intuition, I can totally understand being afraid of the truth, and I think that's something that we all have as humans is some degree of fear of that. Fear of our power is a really strong one that we all have too, and we may not realize that's what we're even afraid of. We think we're afraid of failure, but oftentimes when you peel back the layers and go layers deeper, you realize there's a bigger fear of actually doing the thing and being in your power at times than there is a fear of failure,
Wow.
which is a sneaky one. It's usually pretty subconscious,
Yeah.
that fear. But that can contribute to not wanting to hear the truth. And I think, yeah, I guess that has been true for me. I have felt strongly that, for example, a relationship wasn't right for me, and I have pushed that feeling to the side because I wasn't ready to release the attachment. Um, so it is a
Yeah.
journey. It's a journey I've walked for many years. At this point, I feel really comfortable with my alignment with spirit and myself, and I feel very aligned with me walking the path of my soul. But it definitely took years and years of healing from trauma, healing from codependency to get to this place where I have this clear channel. Because, of course, it's an energetic thing that's happening, but our body has to be in alignment to some degree to be able to be a clear receiver for that channel. So when we have a lot of unprocessed trauma in the body, and what I also do for my work, I don't only do spiritual channeling, I also do somatic healing work with my clients. And that is healing from traumatic energies that are stored in the body. When we do that and we discharge, it's called these stored energies in the body that are related to trauma. And I also connect with my clients' inner parts, help them connect to their inner parts. So, your inner child, for example, these parts of you that were hurt in the past that are really scared, that may have this self protective mechanism over you. They don't want you to hear the truth. They're afraid of the truth. They're
Mhm.
trying to just protect you in ways that can make it more foggy or make your channel not as clear. So I feel that the spiritual work, the intuitive psychic development work needs to happen in tandem with somatic healing, healing from trauma, healing the body so that your physical body, which is the vessel which receives everything, can be like processing and interpreting everything clearly and not based on the imprinting that exists in you from your past.
Okay. Well, that's really fascinating because another question I was going to ask you is about how could a person begin to develop their own psychic abilities? But it sounds like from what your work with your clients, maybe that's something that almost starts to appear more naturally just as the trauma is slowly healed. It just kind of comes of its own.
Absolutely. Yes. And the deeper that you connect with your own body, like you can receive messages just from your own body, before you're even channeling spirit, which I teach my clients how to do, but I have a very strong focus on the body as well. Because even just tuning into your body, you can receive very clear messages from your own body, not even from anything external. Your body has so much wisdom. It has its own like very strong antennas and messages to you. As women and womb bearers, our womb is a really strong intuitive power center of wisdom and truth for us. Our heart, for everyone, our heart is a portal to our soul's truth. So much like psychic expansion can happen through just connecting with your body and hearing what it has to say. But as a society right now, we
Mm,
are very, very disconnected from our own bodies. So we're not even like, for example, we get a headache and we just take ibuprofen. And hey, I'm guilty of doing that at times too, for sure. But it's also like, okay, but why is this happening? Because that's your body trying to communicate a message to you about something happening within it. And so if we don't take the time to tune in and ask this part of us what it needs and why it's feeling this way, we're really just keeping that separation between us and our body. And so the more we tune in, we make time to listen to our body when it's in pain somewhere, see why and where that's coming from. Oftentimes, it comes from an unmet need in our life, something that's out of alignment in our life that our body's trying to tell us, like, this relationship is causing this, or your work is causing you to do this, or you're not sleeping enough, or you're dehydrated, or maybe it's even related to a pain from your past that you're still carrying. And that's why your shoulders are hurting because you're carrying the weight of a burden from your past. Could be so many different things. But even that process of just tuning in, and you can work with, for example, guides like me who can help you with this until usually my clients get to a place where they can start to do it on their own. Once you start to do
mm.
that, like the messages get louder and louder and louder, and you can hear them clearer. And you're like, okay, like right now I can do these things really quickly because of my practice. Practice really just improves your
Yeah.
psychic ability. So at first, you might close your eyes and try to listen to your body, and it might feel kind of numb. It might be very hard to even feel anything because of that disconnection. But every time you go in and set the
Mhm.
intention, you might notice something a little more. The message will get a little stronger. The sensations will get stronger. And then eventually you start to hear your inner child talk in a place, or you start to have a memory come up, and that enhances your psychic sensing so much, just that type of practice. um, and then when you get to a certain ability to be able to quiet the mind, you can then start to do things like learning how to channel spirit in a meditative state.
I love everything that you said about specifically even as a society, um, how disconnected we are from our bodies because I I guess as I've walked the spiritual path, I've realized more and more how
Mm,
disconnected I was. And I think it's fair to say I still am. I'm working on it. Um, yeah, I think that disconnection, maybe we're just starting to see it now a little more as a culture, but maybe just on the cusp of just starting to look at it. Could you help us understand maybe a little more what does like a body saying yes versus a body saying no. What does that feel like for you maybe? For people who are really disconnected and don't even know what that even means maybe.
It's cool, actually. Everyone's bodies has a different way to communicate these things. So there was something I was doing very consistently with
Mhm.
my clients, and if I received the message that it would work well for a client, I will do it in session with them. It's something I can teach. And your heart actually can deliver a yes and no response to you. So for some people, this works really well. My mom is actually an example of someone who like slays this when I've helped her through things. She gets very strong messages from the heart, and she's like the ideal client for heart communication. So for some people, this is a really cool pathway. So I guide them into connection with their heart. First, we kind of calm down the body. So you get into a little more of a meditative state where you're able to listen a little closer, not scanning for threats around you. Because that's the thing. A lot of us are in chronic fight or flight mode. We're scanning for threats in our environment constantly, and we're not hearing the true messages of intuition because there's anxiety over it, kind of covering it. There's this fear of being hurt that's constantly there. And that's happens for a lot of the clients I work with as a little aside. A lot of them, especially I help a lot of people in relationships, they're having a hard time discerning like what's my intuition because their fear is so afraid of being hurt because they've been hurt in their past. So they're receiving a lot of messages about being hurt and being cheated on, being betrayed. But that can be the anxiety talking, the pain from the past that is still within them. So it does take a practice of listening
Yeah.
within and starting to piece apart the different parts that are talking. So one pathway is the heart, one pathway is this parts work. So the heart, your heart can actually respond to you when you ask it yes or no questions. So I start by kind of exploring with the client what their unique yes and no is. So for example, when my mom gets a
Mhm.
yes and her heart responds yes to something, she gets like a tingling sensation that goes up into her neck, like viscerally feels that. And when she gets a no, I'm actually forgetting what her no is. It might be like a strong collapse. A lot of people get like a collapse in the chest for a no. Their heart might start beating faster, almost
Yeah.
like an uncomfortable, anxious feeling. There can be a heaviness. Some
Yeah.
people's chest opens for yes. Some people even get tingling on one side of the body versus another for yes and no, like very consistently, like right is yes, left is no.
Yeah.
So that can be a pathway where some people start to develop yes and no. And some people's heart just starts to tell them the word yes or the word no. So again, it depends on the person and their body and how
Mhm.
they're wired and naturally inclined. Um, but another thing I do is this parts work. So it's identifying the different parts of you that are at play in a certain situation. So in the example of someone with anxiety, I would connect with that person's anxiety very directly. We would not try to bypass it and be like, okay, well, we don't care about the anxiety. So
Mhm.
what's underneath the anxiety? No, the anxiety is what needs us to talk to it first because it needs attention. It's actually giving you a signal that it wants your help and attention and it's trying to talk to you by giving you this feeling. So we'll talk to it directly. And usually it's related to a part of us that is really afraid of something because of something that happened in the past. And so the first step will always be tending to that thing that's blocking and making sure we give it love, attention, safety, whatever it might need to feel a little bit more safe and seen in a way that it wasn't able to feel in the past. And then that will start to calm this part of us down enough to then see what else is around and underneath it and maybe receive your heart's truth a little more clearly at that point.
Wow. That's incredible. And that's something I've started to learn too is, everybody that is another thing with our society. We want to overlook the anxiety. We want to push it away. We want to
Yeah.
pretend it doesn't exist, but it usually has a really critical message for us, and it is something that's real and true for us. So it needs to be seen and acknowledged.
At times, Western medicine is great. If you break a
Uh-huh.
bone, you need surgery, amazing. But to just give medication to suppress a symptom and not address the underlying root cause of why that's even happening in the first place is a problem because our body's not just doing these
Right.
things for no reason. So many diseases say like they don't really understand where it came from. Even things like cancer, like, oh, it
Yeah.
just happened. Well, it's like, well, stress. Okay, well, what does that mean? This is actually that like a lot of times, I'm not saying this happens in every case, but a lot of times when someone falls ill, there's been a lot of messages from their body attempting to come through leading up to that point about things that are not aligned in their life or things that they need to heal from still. And unfortunately, we're not very supported as a society to understand that and explore those things. And if we were able to do that, there would be a lot of even physical healing that would happen on this planet, of course, as well as the healing of our mental health and our radiance and everything. Our
Mhm.
intuition would get stronger. So, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Total agreement with you on everything there. So I think that actually leads us really well into maybe we could have a little bit of a discussion about whether we're talking about the media, TV shows, movies. When we talk about psychics, they're typically portrayed either as
Yeah.
charlatans, frauds, or else just completely crazy. So what are your thoughts on all that? Why do you think that happens? It's unfortunate, I
Yeah.
think, because while I do see that there are reasons to be cautious with psychics because nobody wants to be taken advantage of. Um, it also seems like it's looked down upon, even though it's an incredible
Absolutely.
ability. So what are your
Yeah,
thoughts
I
on that?
know. I was just talking about this to my partner we were watching something and they were showing like a spiritual character who was on their healing journey. Not necessarily a psychic, but similar realm. The one character they show who's actually prioritizing healing from trauma. Oh, I know what it was in. It was in Beetlejuice 2 that was like recently released. And
Oh,
this particular guy ended up having serious problems, but they portrayed him that way. And it was sad because he was actually talking about how he was doing the work to heal from his childhood trauma, but they just make him sound like this very ungrounded, hippy dippy. And it's like, well, there's people who are very like disembodied in what they're talking about. There are people who exist who are like a little bit too ungrounded and in the stars. And that person still has a lot of work to do to get back into their body. They're probably very dissociated, disconnected from their
mhm,
body, and they probably do have strong psychic abilities in these upper chakras, but haven't done the work to bring it into the body, which is true for a lot of people who are naturally spiritually
mm,
inclined. The work isn't to enhance their psychic abilities. The work is to get into the body, bring safety into the body, ground it. That was definitely my work. That was my second step
yeah,
because naturally I can receive messages very easily. So there are people like that who haven't done that work yet. That does not mean, though, that it's all fake. There's also trickster energies who can communicate with people with psychic abilities. And if you haven't done the work to be discerning and grounded in your body and know where you're receiving a message from, these people could sound crazy because they're actually being told something by a spirit that is tricking them or can take advantage of their mental health, which is really sad. Even in cases of schizophrenia, they're being influenced by like darker energies oftentimes. So there's that part of it. And there's also just people being so afraid of their power and their intuition
mhm,
because they're living life a certain way. And to believe in this stuff and to then be forced to look inward and connect with their own intuition would mean that they would have to
mhm,
probably change a lot of things in their life and face some very hard truths. Um, and a lot of people are
right,
just a little too afraid to go there. So they'd rather block it out. I have
yeah,
even heard someone say that they're an atheist and then go on to explain, well, it's not that I don't believe in it, but I just know that I don't have the space to go down that path. So I'm just choosing not to look there. Like, well, that's not full
yeah,
atheism necessarily.
yeah,
Maybe it is for that person. Maybe they genuinely don't believe, but in that conversation, it sounded like it was more just a fear-based personal choice. And I understand that the truth of situations can be very difficult to face, of course. And a lot
right,
of it isn't our fault. There's so much corruption in society that like disconnect us from our truth and our power from a very young age, a lot of like institutionalization of things and just like the way we're raised and the trauma that's passed down through generations. There's just so much that is kind of working against us, just being able to be fully embodied and empowered in that. So, a lot of it's not our fault that we've
yeah,
gotten to this point of being really afraid and stuck in a pattern and a loop of life that maybe doesn't feel super fulfilling to us, but it's okay. And a lot of people would rather accept like the okayness of their life than look at doing the tough stuff that
Yeah.
would be required to make it like extraordinary.
Right. So, have you felt from your personal journey, because it sounds like you've had pretty incredible psychic abilities starting
Hmm.
even as a child. Have you felt like you had to hide a lot of aspects of yourself? Have you been through seasons of life where you're almost pretending that you don't have the abilities,
Hmm.
or that almost like whole parts of your personality maybe have to be hidden in order to be accepted?
Totally. Yeah. It was very difficult when I was younger. And even honestly, up until a few couple years ago, it was difficult. I even had someone I was in
Mhm.
relationship with um, think that I could be schizophrenic. And my gift started to really powerfully come back online in 2018 of like spiritually channeling things like constantly, just like a lot of mediumship really was activated that year, and I was in a relationship already, and but that enhanced ability really scared this person. Ironically enough, now they have found their own
Mhm.
spirituality, and they have already told me everything. I know you were right about everything. I wasn't ready for it yet. But that's a lot of what happens
Well,
is people come back to me years later and they're like, "Oh, I'm having a spiritual awakening now." And I'm like, "Yes, I've been telling you all along." Like these people who might have been judging me or wondering if I was a little out there, are starting to have their own undeniable awakenings and experiences. And for a while, when I was younger, I could kind of just mask a little bit and try to fit in. I'm pretty good at being adaptable to certain environments because I read energy so well. So I can make myself into someone who gets along with pretty much anyone. I can read the type of humor that a person might like me to engage in. I can basically read how that person likes to socialize, and I can just be that person. So that was a lot of my younger years, just to be accepted and have fun and party, could just like laugh at stuff that really wasn't even funny. And then I was like, okay, I'm starting to feel very misaligned with these people around me. And I ended up moving across the country. And that was a big catalyst for me to really own, like, okay, I'm going to start living life as the person that I am now without trying to conform to someone that I'm not.
mhm.
And my life significantly improved at that point, when I stopped doing that. And I know because I'm psychic, right? So I can sense people that are still following me on Instagram, for example, for years and years and years, people who maybe I went to high school with, and they're like, "What is this girl talking about?" It'll even show me that some of my posts that are like edgier are like, you can't see who they're sent to, but you can see they were like mass sent to somebody's group chat because it shows you how many people have sent to someone else. I'm like, oh yeah, people are gossiping right now.
Mhm.
But it's cool because the more I talk about things that are undeniable as well, like the somatic healing part, I can tell that I'm capturing more of an audience's attention. And that was a missing link for me when I was only talking about spirituality, channeling, extraterrestrials, spirit guides. It was easy to say,
Mhm.
she's off her rocker, you know? But now I'm talking about things that are going to pierce
Mhm.
you as truth. You don't have to believe in spirituality to understand what I'm saying about your inner child and your trauma and the body and all that. And it's scientific proven. So, how likely is it that someone who
Yeah.
is well versed in science and helping people heal from trauma is also going to be like schizophrenic and completely disconnected from reality and simultaneously be like feeding you lies while helping you heal from trauma? It's just that doesn't really make sense. So, I think I'm helping
Right.
people to come around because I'm talking about the full spectrum of the human experience and the full spectrum of healing and evolution and not just like the spiritual piece of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that really resonates. Because I just was also talking to another woman who
Mhm.
had an NDE, and she said that that was felt like a real breakthrough for her is when she started telling
Yes.
her whole story. Because there were some moments in her past that she had kept secrets from everyone. Nobody knew. And, she's like, "When I started telling that story, that's when it felt like my whole life
Yes.
shifted."
It's so
So yeah, that really
powerful.
resonates with
Yes,
me.
100%. I completely
Yeah,
agree, and I can feel it happening. More people are starting to wake up,
yeah,
so to speak, or they're starting to notice or experience synchronicities, or a lot of times it starts with, like, seeing angel numbers and having synchronistic events, and, like, that can be someone's, like, door opening to there might be more. Um, and I see that happening more and more and more to people who were pretty closed off even just 5 years ago, even just 3 years ago, even just last year. So I'm seeing it happening more and I'm excited for that. And I'll allow myself to be
yeah,
judged behind the scenes because ultimately the truth will come out and the people who are ready to receive my support do need to hear me say these things so that they can feel a feeling of resonance within them. If I'm not sharing the truth of my experience, then I'm not able to share the frequency that people who are ready and meant to work with me need to hear to be able to come work with me. So it's kind of a part of the gig. You have to be vulnerable to criticism, but it opens the door. And even when people aren't ready, you're planting seeds. Just a little seed is planted that they might
yeah,
remember later, and it kind of
yeah,
helps them in a way they aren't realizing yet. So,
yeah. I know, because that's one of the unfortunate things, just being human, we can't see the full
mhm,
impact of our actions, negative
mhm.
and positive. It's
I
unfortunate
know
that
that
we
would be
can't
so
see
nice.
all the ripples that go out from everything. I know, wouldn't that change
Yes.
the whole that would change the world
Yes,
if we could see it
absolutely. On,
all.
like, the rare occasions that I have had someone just, like, randomly reach out to me about this little thing that I said or did, like, it's happened a few different times, and I'm just like, "Oh, thank you." Like, that just
Yeah,
it's so nice to see that butterfly effect, that ripple effect. I agree, but we have to
yeah,
trust that it's happening because everything is a part of a beautiful, divinely orchestrated play that's happening out here on Earth. As our souls are growing and evolving, we're all
yeah.
deeply interconnected, even though we think we're separate because we have egos. So we got to trust it all.
Can I ask you this? As a highly sensitive, intuitive person, do you find that certain activities are too much for you, such as being in um, maybe like concert venues, w- big crowds, loud spaces, noisy places?
Yes.
Um, do you feel like you can get anxious pretty easily or overwhelmed, overstimulated pretty
Yeah,
easily?
I do. um,
Yes. Yeah. Because that's something that's more new for me. I wasn't
mhm.
always this way. But especially in the I would say maybe even since COVID, maybe since like 2020, I find myself, if I go to like some kind of like a big venue, big crowd, it's almost like I need a few days to recover afterward.
Absolutely. Yes. I used to be able to be in the middle of the crowd. I don't know how I did it in my early 20s. I was also partying and I wasn't fully sober. So I think I was numbing out the sensitivities that I had so that I
Mm.
could handle the environment. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
100%, like, I can feel lower vibrational energies very easily, so, like, I will have to sometimes, like, if I'm with my boyfriend at a concert, like, I'm like, "I'm sorry, but, like, can we move locations?" Like, sometimes I need to
mhm,
move physical locations, move to the back to where I have more space because I love live music, um, but I do need so much more space now physically around me to be able to tolerate it.
yeah,
I cannot handle being in a crowd like that, without space. And then just, like, I have, like, a smaller social battery, like, I can't do these, like, longer term, time frames of socialization. I get super exhausted and drained, and I come off as very outgoing and social, but, like, I am an extroverted introvert, like, I need a lot of recharging time to be able to be this way, um, so I need a lot of time to myself, without other energies around. I actually just moved from an apartment complex to a house that we're renting now, and I can feel like, oh my gosh, there's no one above us. There's no one to the side of us. I feel so much better already. I haven't decorated this office yet, but I have an office now with the door that's just mine for only my energy versus like sharing the room with our bedroom or the living room. So I 100% need to put a lot of different things in place now that I'm so open to feeling energies. Um, and just being discerning too about the environments you're in. But sometimes it is as simple as like moving to the other side of the room or something if you're in a big place, because it could be the people around you's energy that you're sensing, or it could just be that there's just too much input. So there's only so much I have found that works to protect my energy. I do a lot of protection rituals, but to some degree, I'm just going to feel things very strongly and I can't fully shut that part off. So,
Would you be willing to share one of your protection rituals? Be something that people listening could
yeah.
easily
Mine is very
try or
extensive, so it would take a little too much time to explain, but I can give you like some pieces of it. So, to energetically cleanse the home and my body and the space, I use dragon's blood. You can get it as an incense. I use it instead of sage because it cleanses the energy of darker spiritual energies, not just energy such as if you had an argument and there was lower vibrational energy from yelling in a room. You could take sage to help that clear from the room, or it's called smudging, where you use the smoke, open the windows, and you kind of let the energy leave the home. But dragon's blood actually is even more powerful
Mhm.
in terms of like spiritual cleansing and protection of the space. So I only use that. And I do that in my space. And then I do different types of like meditative, light based
Mm.
protections. So I feel the earth rise up to hold me, and I even connect around where my root chakra is with a golden root. I see it growing out of my body and it travels all the way down into the earth, into the ground. So, like connecting my body with the ground. Um, and then I have a powerful light from God that shines all the way down and protects my entire body with this beautiful bright white light. And I do several different layers of light outside of it. Um, but one of them
Mhm.
that I had learned and added this piece on from a different spiritual practitioner, and I think she only focuses on this one. Um, it's only a part of my ritual, but she has God put a powerful protective layer or bubble, essentially, of bright white light all around her. And so it's a thick, bright white light that's like a bubble all around you. So you can kind of, I'll bring my awareness up to
Mhm.
the heavens, to God, to source, and I see this light come down and then protect my entire field. And then I also do a few other light things like that to make it even stronger. And an important part of protection is also incantations, which is basically using your voice to state and claim what you are available for and what you're not available for. And you're just claiming that in your space. So, for example, like claiming that as I channel spirit, I'm only channeling beings of the light who are highly benevolent and compassionate, things like that, just claiming that. Or I like state an incantation when I cleanse the space with my dragon's blood as well, cleansing the space of any lower vibrational energies. And I call in my Holy Spirit team to support with the process. So that's always an important part of
Mhm.
cleansing and protection, is just claiming like this is my space. This is only my bubble here. Nothing external is allowed inside of this bubble of light. Nothing external is allowed inside of my home. And then people tend to find their own thing that they say, they make their incantation their own in a way that feels true for them. So I kind of help my clients come up with one that feels
Mhm.
resonant for them. Mine, again, is pretty extensive. There's a lot of specific spirits I call in, and they might not resonate with everyone on this call, but in a general sense, that's a good starting point, is the bubble of light from God and cleansing your space and claiming your space as your own.
It sounds like meditation has become almost like a way of
Mhm.
life for you, which I find inspiring. I feel like I have seasons where I'm
Mhm.
meditating daily, and then I'll move into another season. Like I've been kind of this summer, where I just like
Mhm.
drift away from it. Do you feel like that has happened to you in the past, and that over time it's become more of a way
For
of
sure.
life?
So for me, there's different types of meditation. There's meditating where you're just breathing and focusing on, I think the meditation that probably comes to mind for most people when they hear that word is like, I have to think about nothing. And that feels really scary because it's like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
My brain is running a mile a minute. Like, I'm not going to sit there and think about nothing. That sounds like torture. I can't do that. But then you don't have to do it that way. And the meditation that I do is more of a guided practice where I'm visualizing things and I'm connecting with things. So it's not just me being in silence, trying not to think of anything, which can be very difficult and intimidating for every human to do. Mine is more of like intentionally going on a journey, but just in a meditative state to protect my field and to communicate with spirit. So, in terms of doing that, I do that almost every day. I do it before every single client call.
Mhm.
And it keeps me on track that I have clients that I serve because I won't hop on a call without doing that ritual. So I end up doing it almost every day, anyways. And then when I'm going through things in my own life and I want to receive clear guidance from myself, I always do the ritual as well because it just aligns my channel. So it's not just the protection part for me that I do. I also
Mhm.
connect with different chakras, Earth Star and Soul Star, and um, I align them and again state an incantation so that I can communicate with my spirit guides and my higher self. So in terms of that, that has become a
Yeah.
consistent practice that I do for myself and for my work.
Yeah, I can 100% see that as you actually
Mhm.
see the results of the meditation
Oh yeah.
practice and the incredible things it does for you, then it makes you want to be more and
Yes.
more devoted to doing it. And it just becomes a part of your daily
Totally. Yeah. The
routine.
alignment that this particular ritual that I do has given me and given me access to, and the abilities that has given me access to, like before I learned this channeling modality that I was actually certified in through this woman, Kama England. She's a very powerful channel. I had been talking to spirit a lot, but I didn't have a clear, precise methodology of aligning my channel and ensuring that I knew where the message was coming from and who it was for and all of that. 'Cause spirits can try to trick you. So since I learned this, it has just enhanced my life so much, and I started seeing clients after really, really embodying this particular ritual because of the clarity of my channel that came from it, and it just, like, when I even if I do
Mhm.
the ritual at the beginning of the day, the whole rest of my day, I can just feel how aligned I am and what I'm saying to
Yeah.
people and what I'm doing and the decisions I'm making and the clarity I have about my yes and no and the way that I'm showing up. So you definitely do get the positive reinforcement. And then you're like, I feel so out of whack today. Oh, I didn't do my practice. And it positively reinforces that way. So I know it takes some commitment, but the
Yeah.
results can help for
Yeah.
sure.
I love that because that was another question I was going to kind of ask you about was what would you say to the person who's skeptical of psychics? And I think maybe that is a big part of the answer is you just kind of have to try it for yourself and see what the results are. There's pretty much it's a personal experience in the end. You can't prove it.
For sure. For that person, I would say, "Why are you skeptical?" And see what they had to say in terms of an answer to that. And I would say, if you're willing to let me guide you into exploration around why you feel skeptical around this, without me forcing anything on you, I'm not going to force someone who isn't ready for anything. But if this person actually wanted to get into it for real, which they probably don't, they're probably saying they're skeptical because it's their protection mechanism that's basically saying, I'm not ready for this. But let's say they were really like, felt like really aligned in their life and all these things, but they just didn't believe in that part of it. And they were willing to explore, that could be explored in something like a parts work session where we identified the part of them that was talking when they said, I don't believe in this.
Yeah.
And where did this come from? And we would see when this part of them was developed that was so strongly against what I'm saying. And I could definitely guide anyone into connection with some sort of psychic sensing of some kind. But it's really about the initial openness and
Yeah.
willingness. And if you're that closed off to exploring something, that is a clear message that you have some strong self protective parts and fear based parts very active within you. And that's undeniable. So you can't make a statement like that there's no way this is real if you're not willing to explore it. And, that's
Right.
impossible. So I think that kind of answer speaks for itself. It's like, okay, well, if you're fully closed off, you're showing me that, like, you're refusing to explore it and you make up your mind without doing the work. And if that's how you make up your mind about things in your life, that's not there's not truth to that. You can't stand firm on something you haven't explored. So yeah, usually though, people are just like not ready. And if there's any sort of defensiveness, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. you can just be that way and you'll come around when God somehow finds its way to you in divine time. Everyone has their own divine
Yeah.
timing.
Yeah, that leads me into maybe what will be one of our final questions. I've loved
I
this
know.
conversation. I feel like I could
I
keep
know.
going for another hour. But I guess the question would be, how have your abilities shaped your belief in God or
Mhm.
divine power?
That's a beautiful question. I didn't even really use the word God for a long time. Even when I was channeling spirit, I would talk to spirit guides and I would use the word universe, but God was an edgy word for me to use. And I think that's because of the societal conditioning and the view of the word being tied to organized religion. And some people have shame as a result of being indoctrinated in a certain religion that caused them to feel shame about a part of their being. And so there's a lot of people who have wounding around that word and do not like that word at all because of what it has meant for them or their lineage. In a negative way. So it took me years to come around to
Mhm,
saying that word confidently because I now communicate very directly with God and channel God as one of the spiritual entities that I primarily channel. And anytime I'm channeling a spirit guide, I
mhm,
always check it with God after as kind of like the ultimate. My highest self and God are my top two. And then I'll allow spirit guides to come in and deliver messages. But if they don't align with what feels right in my body and with what God is saying, then I can just kind of dismiss them, only taking their information in if it's supportive to me. Um, so I feel that this journey has fully opened me up to the fact that God is real, but not in the sense that you're probably thinking of this white man with a beard. That's not how I perceive or think of God at all. Not you're probably thinking, but people tend to think of it as when it
that was how I was raised.
right.
Yes, grew up Catholic, and that was
Mhm.
kind of
And
yeah,
so it's a much more like,
yeah.
it's so hard to even put into words. I don't even fully understand the beauty and the, like, how extensive and powerful and, like, divine everything is that's happening under God, the divinity of what's happening, like, because we have human brains, we can't fully grasp the concept of God, but I can connect with the energy and feel
Mhm,
it powerfully flowing through me in my life. When I'm in alignment, I feel that I am a vessel for God to move through me. And that's how I relate to what God is.
mhm,
It's that we have the ability to be the channel, the divine channel between heaven and earth, the bridge between heaven and earth. We have the ability as humans to be that bridge. And if we do our healing work and align our physical bodies and open up our channel, heal from our trauma is a huge part of that. Um, and heal from conditioning and things like that, we can be this bridge between heaven and earth, literally allowing God to flow through us. And we're taking action that's God using us
mhm,
as a little tiny piece of the bigger piece where everyone has like this little piece of God's divine energy flowing through them. And if we all were able to do that and move
mhm,
through life in that way, God would be able to just work so much magic on this planet. There would be world peace, there would be everything. But it takes a lot for us to heal from everything we've been through and the generations of stuff that has happened before us and the way things used to be. There's a lot of corruption, but you can also see things crumbling now and things are going to be rebuilt and people are starting to connect more with the God flowing through them more and more. Again, waking up, but basically just rising in consciousness and healing. And so I see God as this like powerful force, but not something that you're supposed to obey in a negative way or that there's specific
mhm,
guidelines, but instead it's just like God is trying to use you in a way that will be of service to the planet in a very powerful way. And it will also feel really good and aligned for you. It's never going to feel like shame or guilt or wrong. There's no bad or wrong. It's pure unconditional love at the highest, the frequency of
mhm.
that that is here to just really support your life and the life of everyone around you if you allow it to flow through you. So,
Beautiful. I think that's beautiful. I have the same experience. I've come to basically the exact same place on my spiritual path, and I am a huge student of A Course in Miracles, and that really is, in my experience, the whole message is how to be a bridge between, like, just like you said, a bridge between heaven and earth.
so
Yes, I
much
love
alike.
that. Beautiful. Well, I think that's a
Mhm.
beautiful place to end. Would you like to talk about upcoming projects? How people can connect with you?
Yes, so my business name is Mystical and Fabulous, and that's my website, mysticalandfabulous.com. So it's all about self love. I really focus on self love, which very much involves healing from trauma, self empowerment, healing from your past, and also relationships. I do relationship coaching as well as spiritual channeling for my clients. So helping people heal and helping couples heal together and enhance their relationship. And you can find me online. And also, I have a Mystical and Fabulous Instagram, but I mostly post on my personal, which is just all of me. So you'll really catch a good vibe for all of my little pieces, including the galactic part of me at Kelsey the Space Kitty. That's my Instagram. Um, so Kelsey. And you can find me there. I'm announcing my 2026 retreat. It's a women's retreat with two really amazing, incredible women who are soul sisters of mine. We're co-facilitating this. It's a divine feminine retreat called the Goddess Reclamation Retreat in Costa Rica, March of 2026. And we'll be really
Wonderful.
connecting with the goddess archetypes, having goddess archetype activations, connecting with our bodies, enhancing those psychic senses in terms of what your body has to say, what your womb has to say. So that's a really amazing, exciting thing. And also, I do have a membership as well. So I do single sessions and couple sessions, but I also have a membership called the Butterfly Effect, our online portal of all the past recordings that we've done for the past couple of years. So everything from somatic healing, inner child healing, to spiritual channeling guided practices, and different things like that. And then we have live calls as well. So a lot of different access points to dip your toes in, or go full in,
Yeah.
whatever you're feeling called to. But I'm happy to connect with anyone who feels the call.
Yeah. The Costa Rica trip sounds
So
incredible.
excited to launch it. It's going to be amazing. Even it's a private
Yeah.
three villa property. And even the woman who runs it is just like this absolute goddess. The energy is just amazing all around, even in the planning stages with her and coordinating with her. So, yeah, going to be amazing. And I can't wait.
Well, thank you so much. I love this conversation. So appreciate you being
It
here.
was my pleasure. Truly, I could talk about this all day. So, anytime. Thank you.